Chosen one, October 30th. The Great Transfer. God's gift. The world may mark it as just another Thursday, just another hour ticking by in the rhythm of life. But for you, chosen one, it is the moment coded into your journey before you even took your first breath. This isn't about coincidence. This is the alignment of divine timing and a sacred transaction from realms unseen. A transfer so powerful, so supernatural, that it will echo in the very cells of your destiny. God has designated October 30th as the appointed moment, the date when what was stored up finally pours down. Not just blessings, but a great transfer. Not just opportunity, but a gift marked with the fingerprint of heaven. Watch this video until the end and write your warmest wishes in the comments and the number 99 to activate the energy of fulfilled desires. This is the moment where your inner fire links to the higher orchestration of all things. This is where wishes step into the light. Now, chosen one, press the hype button and like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's begin. The Great Transfer is not about receiving money alone. Though financial provision is undeniably part of the delivery, it's about receiving what was meant for your name, what was blocked until now, and what was always meant to arrive, in a moment where your preparation meets your permission. God doesn't just release things, He times them, and the time for this divine release is now. October 30th is not just a calendar date. It is the unlocking of what has waited behind heavenly gates. This is not a delay any longer. It's a divine transaction that has already begun moving in your direction. Invisible to the eyes of the world, but undeniable to the heart of the chosen. You may have felt it in your body lately, that strange pull, that electricity humming under your skin, that soft whisper you couldn't explain, that inner restlessness that has no name but speaks the loudest. These are signs that something is shifting. Something great is approaching. It's not anxiety, it's anticipation. God has been drawing you toward this moment. And everything, every closed door, every disappointment, every silent season has been working together to bring this exact hour into manifestation. The day is not just near. It has already been assigned. Heaven has an order system, and your name has been called. This is not the result of effort. It is not the consequence of hustle. It is the evidence of divine decision. When God decides it's time, nothing can interfere. Not man, not system, not economy, not opinion. The angels have already moved. The coordinates have already been locked in, and the great transfer is already underway. You are not going to be the same after this, because this isn't a shift you can return from. It's a divine gift that rewrites your entire trajectory. There is something God stored away with your name on it, not for the world to understand, not for them to approve of, but for you to receive in the fullness of time. It is something ancient, sealed in the sacred vaults of destiny. For years, this blessing has waited for your frequency to match its timing. It could not be released prematurely. But now, the alignment is complete. Your spiritual authority has been activated, and the transaction from the heavens has begun. It's not coming, it's happening. On October 30th, the spiritual and material worlds will collide. What was once held in the realm of belief will move into the realm of being. What you once felt only in dreams will enter the space of your daily life. This is the nature of God's gift. It's not symbolic, it's tangible. It's not a feeling, it's a fact. This divine wealth is not abstract energy. It is a delivery from the higher order, escorted by angels, funded by unseen grace, and authorized by heaven's seal. And even though others can't see it yet, the shift has already taken place. You are standing in the middle of a move that only the spiritually sensitive can detect. The old you would have missed it. The old you would have doubted it. But the you that stands now, healed, awakened, resilient, knows how to sense the arrival of glory before it manifests in form. That's why you feel this stir. That's why your nights have been loud with unexplainable knowing. Because God is about to do what he's never done before. He's transferring wealth, favor, position, revelation, access, clarity, all at once. What is arriving is more than you ask for, because God always goes beyond the request when the soul is aligned. This isn't a single miracle. This is a cascade, an avalanche, a flood of blessings that had been dammed up for too long. And now the walls have broken. The pressure has reached its prophetic peak. And October 30th is when the overflow begins. What seemed small in your hands will multiply. What looked delayed will appear instantly. What seemed like loss will turn out to be storage. It's important to remember that divine timing is not based on human clocks. It's not about the date you circled on the calendar. It's about the moment God's plan intersects with your inner readiness. And that intersection is now. Everything has been leading to this. The tears, the waiting, the prayers that felt like they bounced off silent skies. They were not ignored. They were being stored, compounded, transformed into energy that would return in waves too great to measure. The kind of waves that change not just your life, but the legacy of everyone connected to your name. You are the vessel. But this transfer is not just for you. It is for generations. It is for everything that comes from you. God doesn't give gifts in isolation. He gives them with ripple effects. That's why this moment feels so heavy. That's why it feels sacred, because it is. You are not just receiving, you are being positioned. The gift is not just a deposit. It is an assignment, and it is holy. God is handing you something that can't be earned and can't be explained. It will not make sense to those around you, but it will make sense to your soul, because your soul has been waiting for this. Your spirit has carried the prophecy for far too long to let doubt win. Now, this is your confirmation. This is your day, and it has already been marked as done. October 30th is your moment in divine time. Everything that was once withheld is now being released. Not because you forced it, but because God chose it. There is nothing random about this transfer. It is not the result of trends or timing. It is the reflection of a covenant. And God never forgets a covenant. He always keeps what he writes, even if he waits to deliver it. So, here you are, standing at the edge of fulfillment, at the cliff of promise, looking out over a horizon that's about to bring you more than you've ever touched. The transfer is more than financial. It is mental, it is emotional, it is relational, it is spiritual. Everything that was broken is being rebuilt. Everything that was stolen is being returned. And everything that felt finished is now rising in resurrection power. What's coming will not just shock the world. It will bring peace to your soul. Not because it answers all questions, but because it proves that God always planned to bless you. It proves that delay is not denial, that silence is not abandonment, that obscurity is not rejection. You were not left out. You were being prepared. And now the gates are open. You have stepped into the transfer zone. And now that you're here, there's no going back. You're past the point of hoping for it. You are now becoming it. The atmosphere around you is no longer the same. It has shifted. It has thickened with supernatural movement. The unseen realms have already adjusted to the new coordinates of your blessing. This means the people you were meant to meet are being repositioned. The places that once ignored your name are now preparing a seat with your name carved into it. The doors that were once locked are now expecting your knock. The great transfer has already begun traveling through time, orchestrating divine collisions. These are not random moments. These are synchronized events. Moments created in eternity to arrive in your reality at just the right second. And the reason you are feeling this magnetic pull in your soul is because your soul recognizes what your eyes haven't seen yet. It is the vibration of what is meant for you, drawing closer. God has never sent anything into your life without first alerting your spirit. And right now, your spirit is on high alert because heaven is in motion. Chosen one, you are walking into something that has your spiritual DNA woven into it. This isn't a borrowed blessing. This isn't an inherited favor. This is uniquely tailored for you. What's being delivered has your design in its structure. Your name isn't just written on it. It's built with your essence. That's why the journey here was so hard. Because the weight of the blessing required a depth of transformation. And you did it. You surrendered. You endured. You broke. And then allowed God to remake you. And now, the version of you that was forged in fire is the version that can carry this transfer without collapse. There were moments when you didn't even know if you'd make it, when the silence from heaven felt like abandonment. But you didn't quit. You whispered prayers into the darkness and still got up the next morning with faith the size of a flicker. But that flicker was enough. God heard it. God stored it. God multiplied it in silence. And now the harvest is showing up. Not in pieces, but in fullness. This transfer is full. It doesn't need fixing. It doesn't need striving. It only needs your presence to receive it. That's the level you've reached. And no one will understand how you crossed into this territory because they didn't walk with you through the wilderness. They didn't feel the ache of isolation. They didn't carry the weight of invisible callings. They don't stay up at night, wrestling with the contradiction of being called for more while experiencing less. But God saw. God never looked away. And it was in those hidden years that the blueprint of this great transfer was finalized. What's coming now has the momentum of everything you've survived. This is not a reward. It is a release, a divine release of what was locked up. Not because you weren't worthy, but because the timing wasn't mature. And now it is. This is why you feel so much tension right now. Not because you're failing, but because you're in transition. The friction you feel is the final tug as you are being pulled out of the old dimension and into the new. And there's no going back. The version of you that was tolerated will now be celebrated. The talents that were overlooked will now be in demand. The message that was once ignored will now be sought out. Because the moment God touches something, He transforms its visibility. And now that He has touched your life, what once was hidden will be undeniable. You are not chasing this. It is chasing you. This is the gift. You don't need to force what God has already finalized. There are things already in transit that your name is on. You won't have to explain it. You won't have to convince anyone of your worthiness. This isn't about proof. It's about position. You are in position now. And what is for you is magnetized to that position. Let others doubt. Let them wonder how. But know this, heaven has never required earthly validation to bless someone. God doesn't ask permission when it's time to transfer favor. And the favor on your life is heavy. You're not entering this new realm empty-handed. You're stepping in as a carrier of wealth, wisdom, wonder, and most of all, evidence. Evidence that God remembers. Evidence that heaven responds. Evidence that time isn't wasted, it's woven. What's ahead of you is not small. It is not average. It is not ordinary. It is majestic. It is divine. It is the answer to prayers whispered through tears in rooms no one else saw. And now, the God who saw it all is delivering it all. There are people who thought they buried you, not realizing you were a seed. They walked away when your branches hadn't yet broken the ground. But now you are rising. And when you rise, everything connected to you rises too. This transfer is about elevation, not just for you, but for the generation after you. It is spiritual inheritance being activated. It is the beginning of a ripple that will not stop for decades. The blessing on your life is not momentary. It is generational, and you're ready. You've been trained in private. You've been refined in silence. You've been processed in pain. But now it's time to walk in power. And that power isn't loud. It isn't forced. It's quiet, sovereign, divine. It enters the room before you speak. It alters atmospheres without trying. Because when God gifts something, he wraps it in undeniable glory. The transfer coming is holy. It is sacred. It is not something to be explained. It is something to be honoured. You will know it's real by the way it changes your breath, by the way peace settles over your chest like sunlight through stained glass. You will feel the arrival of heaven's yes, not in a flash, but in a quiet confirmation so powerful you'll never question again. It won't feel like hype. It will feel like home. And that's how you'll know. God is not sending this to impress the world. He's sending it to fulfill his word. He's sending it because he said he would. Because you were faithful with the little. Because you didn't walk away when it looked like he forgot you. Because you loved him through the silence. Because you worshipped when there was no music. And because you didn't need applause to keep going. That kind of faith does not go unnoticed. That kind of faith activates transfers the world can't even describe. Now, you're about to walk into places where your name was already mentioned, into rooms where your purpose was already predicted, into moments where your presence was already prepared. Nothing is missing. Nothing is delayed. Nothing is denied. Because when it's time, it's time. And it is time now. This is not a rehearsal. This is the fulfillment. And it's yours. There is a moment when heaven stops waiting. Not because you rushed it, not because you demanded it, but because the fullness of time has arrived. October 30th is not just a day. It is a culmination. It is the hour when all spiritual preparations align with earthly release. God has not just decided to bless you. He has timed it. And this chosen one is the timing. The fullness of what you were promised is no longer in concept form. It is descending, it is unfolding, it is birthing into reality right now. There are some who still think you're standing still. But that's only because they can't feel the wind that's surrounding you. You're in motion, not by the rules of man, but by the momentum of God. You're being carried now, carried by grace, carried by favour, carried by the winds of divine orchestration. This is not a walk anymore. It's a lift. A prophetic elevation has begun. And just like the clouds don't explain their movement, neither will you. You won't need to justify your rise. You won't need to reason with those who stayed in the old season. You've crossed over. You've stepped through an invisible veil that was only meant for the few, the anointed, the prepared, the trusted. And you've been trusted with this moment, not just to experience it, but to embody it. The great transfer is not a singular event. It is a divine chain reaction, a sacred pattern unfolding across realms. Everything that was once entangled is now aligning. The unseen is becoming seen. The invisible is becoming tangible. The prophetic is becoming present. You are no longer reaching for it. It's landing in your lap. This gift, this divine transaction, was never about earning. It was about timing, and you are right on time. You'll begin to notice it in strange ways. Unexplained favour, delayed yeses suddenly turning into unstoppable approvals, old conversations turning into new contracts, quiet ideas exploding into divine downloads, strangers showing up with keys, enemies silenced without confrontation, systems that once ignored you now needing you, the structure of reality bending around your calling. That's how you know God is doing it. Because you couldn't plan this. You couldn't force this. You couldn't even guess how it would come because it's not human. It's holy. God is reintroducing you, but not with words, with evidence. Evidence of preservation, evidence of preparation, evidence of purpose. The places where you were once overlooked are now being magnetized by your presence. Because when the glory of God is upon someone, they don't need to audition. They arrive and room shift. That's what this gift is doing for you. It's making space. Divine space. Reserved territory. October 30th is not a random slot. It is reserved. It is where heaven drops delivery into the hands of the ready. And you, chosen one, are ready. You don't just carry potential anymore. You carry prophecy. You don't just speak a vision. You are walking it out. You don't just believe for something. You are becoming it. And as you rise, you'll begin to feel the detachment from the old. Old patterns, old fears, old limitations. They can't come. They were necessary in the wilderness, but they have no place in the promised space. This transfer has weight, and to carry it, you must be light. That's why things have been falling off you lately. That's why people you once thought were permanent are suddenly disappearing. God is clearing the airspace for your elevation. This isn't punishment, it's positioning because divine gifts don't come to crowded hands. And you, chosen one, are being emptied of distractions so you can be filled with destiny. You're not losing, you're making room, you're not being isolated, you're being set apart. Watch what begins to happen in waves. Opportunities that bypass the logical route. Invitations that carry more weight than your resume. Wealth that has no connection to the systems you're used to. And above all, peace. Deep, still, irrefutable peace. The kind of peace that confirms that this transfer is not man-made. It is God-given. And when it lands, it won't come alone. It will come wrapped in clarity, wrapped in new alliances, wrapped in revelation. This transfer is multidimensional. It affects every layer of your being, the financial, the relational, the spiritual, the physical, the emotional, the generational. That's how deep this runs. That's why it took this long. Because God wasn't just giving you something. He was giving you something that would change everything. And here's the truth. Not everyone could carry what you're about to hold. That's why your process was so intense. That's why your preparation felt like pressure. Because the level of this blessing requires spiritual infrastructure. This isn't lightweight favor. This is legacy-altering, dimension-shifting favor. The kind that marks bloodlines. The kind that reverses curses, the kind that sets records, and the kind that can only be handed to the deeply formed. So, if you've ever wondered why your journey took longer, this is why. Because God wasn't just preparing the gift, He was preparing the one who would receive it. And now, here you are, standing in the fullness of your yes. No longer begging, no longer surviving, no longer trying to make others understand. You've crossed into confirmation, the confirmation of everything you've whispered into the midnight hours, the confirmation of everything you journaled when no one was looking, the confirmation of every moment you felt like giving up but chose instead to believe. God never forgets what he plants, and you are about to see that truth walk into your reality, not because of force, but because of faith. Everything is turning now. Your voice will carry more power. Your steps will carry more weight. Your decisions will carry more reach, and your presence will carry more meaning. Because when the transfer happens, it doesn't just change what you receive, it changes who you are, and who you are becoming is someone the world hasn't seen before, someone formed by the hand of the Creator for such a time as this. October 30th is not just the beginning of a new chapter, it is the beginning of a new book. You are no longer rewriting the old story, you are writing a new one. And this time it will be written in overflow, not survival. This time it will be written in miracles, not May. This time it will be written in full colour, because the gift is already in motion and you are already the carrier of its glory. You are no longer suspended between promise and manifestation. What once felt like an echo of distant prophecy has now stepped into the tangible corridors of your lived experience. You've arrived at the intersection where divine orchestration meets your prepared soul, and nothing about this moment is casual. It was appointed, designed, layered with spiritual meaning far beyond what most can comprehend. October 30th is not a vague prophecy, nor is it a general hope. It is a sacred delivery that carries the fragrance of fulfillment, soaked in the oil of obedience and etched with the signature of heaven. Every step that has brought you here has been part of a greater rhythm that only God could compose. And now that the rhythm has reached its crescendo, you are not watching the blessing approach. You are beginning to embody it. The transfer that is occurring is not merely financial, although what is being placed in your hands will certainly provide in ways that redefine your relationship with wealth. More deeply, this is a spiritual unlocking that has economic consequences, emotional clarity, and generational reach. It is a divine exchange of old limitations for new landscapes, a passing of invisible keys that open visible doors. The process that once felt endless has now birthed the moment where your faith is no longer private, but revealed in public evidence. Everything within you that has remained in a posture of endurance is now shifting into a space of empowered reception. And this transformation is not being measured in applause, recognition, or metrics. It is being measured in divine agreement, in spiritual resonance, in the calm authority that enters your presence before any word is spoken. You are not being promoted into this space because of how long you waited, but because of how well you carried the weight while waiting. God watched you remain faithful, even when the fruit was invisible. You prayed when answers didn't come. You continued when doors remained sealed. You stayed anchored when the winds of delay and misunderstanding howled around your name. And through every layer of pressure, through each repeated cycle of almost but not yet, something deep within you refused to disconnect from the frequency of heaven. That resistance to bitterness, that refusal to numb your vision, that inner loyalty to the unseen plan, it formed you into the exact vessel that could hold what is now arriving. This is not merely an answered prayer. This is an activated purpose. It carries momentum that goes beyond relief. It brings with it not only the resources you need, but also the revelation you didn't realize you were missing. This transfer is not just equipping your life. It is expanding your identity. It does not simply allow you to live differently. It demands that you become the version of yourself who was once hidden beneath layers of survival. You are not stepping into a new chapter. You're becoming the author of a new book, one that cannot be written in scarcity, confusion, or hesitation. Your life is now a manuscript of miracles in motion. The wealth that is being released into your experience is not tied to ego, greed, or external status. It is tied to divine assignments, dormant blueprints, and the healing of spiritual wounds. What's being placed in your possession is sacred, not just useful. It's not arriving to inflate your pride, but to unlock your impact. You are not being trusted with this simply for personal comfort. You are being entrusted because you are a conduit for collective transformation. Your story, once marked by silence and secrecy, is becoming a living testimony of what happens when patience partners with purpose and surrender meets divine schedule. The systems around you will begin to respond to your shift, not because they are suddenly more favorable, but because you have shifted into the frequency where resistance loses power. The rooms that once ignored your existence will begin to feel incomplete without your presence. The conversations that once excluded your voice will seek your insight. The atmospheres that once repelled your truth will now bend to your authority. You are not arriving to take over. You are arriving because God has already established the ground you are meant to stand on. And now that your inner alignment matches the outer invitation, movement becomes inevitable. God is not just releasing a gift. He is authorizing a new dimension of your life. That means the energy you bring to the world is no longer muted by fear or self-doubt. It carries weight. It moves things. It awakens sleeping dreams in others. This is the legacy of the chosen. Their elevation is not about exclusivity, but about ignition. When they rise, others begin to believe again. When they prosper, others feel permission to start again. When they walk into what was once considered impossible, they silently teach others that impossibility is often just a delay in divine timing. You are the manifestation of every unseen alignment. This moment is the physical evidence of spiritual agreements made in sacred spaces no one else witnessed. That's why this blessing does not need an explanation. It does not require your defense. It only requires your stewardship. And stewardship begins not with strategies, but with reverence. To honor the gift is to understand the magnitude of what it took to receive it. The inner work, the invisible battles, the willingness to be misunderstood, the hours of silence that carved clarity into your soul, all of it was not for nothing. It was a preparation for a day that would arrive without warning, but carry the weight of everything that was once withheld. You are no longer the version of yourself that needed to be convinced of your value. You are walking now with the calm certainty that what God gives, no one can take, diminish, or discredit. This clarity will not scream for validation. It will simply move in truth. It will not ask for applause. It will carry impact. It will not follow the path others expect. It will forge a new one. The wealth you are receiving does not follow the rules of old systems. It is coming from beyond them through channels that were invisible to the naked eye, but always visible to the spirit. Nothing about this transfer is performative. It is prophetic. That means it does not arrive to impress. It arrives to complete. There is no longer any need to chase confirmation. You are living in the confirmation. Your timeline has reached its appointed hour. You are not preparing anymore. You are participating. And participation means full presence, full acceptance, full embodiment. No more second guessing, no more holding back, no more diluting your presence to fit into containers that were never shaped for your capacity. This isn't the beginning of change. It is the revealing of what already changed in you while no one was looking. The shift did not start with the arrival of the blessing. It started with your decision to remain faithful when everything in your environment gave you permission to abandon the mission. And that decision is what heaven rewards. Not perfection, but persistence. Not popularity, but purity of intention. You are receiving not because you performed your way into it, but because you became the kind of soul who could be trusted with the weight of sacred gifts. October 30th is not about announcement. It is about awakening. Not the kind of awakening that feels like noise, but the kind that settles like revelation. You won't need to shout that the season has changed. You will walk into spaces and the atmosphere will already know. Because God's movement in your life is not subtle. It is sovereign. And that sovereignty is no longer being hidden behind the veil of preparation. It is emerging now, fully formed through you.